But
Yes.
Sean, why don't you tell our audience here what are we trying to achieve here with the DevOps Roundup?
So the DevOps Roundup, we started it to basically be a place that people could come to learn about what DevOps is, what vendors are supporting DevOps in the industry, and what are the benefits of DevOps, and how do you go about solving certain problems in DevOps? What are the vendors doing? Is it helping? Is it not helping? And basically, what the general direction of DevOps is, and it's had many different directions in the last almost 15 years that DevOps
That's
has been a
It's
thing.
been around for a while. I remember my first introduction to DevOps was a Microsoft term. I was working out of the Team Foundation server tools, and DevOps was this new idea. It was this new concept where instead of having a developer create code and a support engineer manage the code after it's been tossed over the fence, the operations part of it, the maintainability, the everything that happens after you hit that commit button on your code, that onus went back to that developer. And so the developer did the development and the ops, hence the DevOps. And that was a new concept that it got introduced to me fairly early in my career.
And when was that? That was 2000,
Circa 2013,
2013.
2012,
Okay, I was
2013.
going to guess like 2012 or something like that. Yeah, because that's about the time I remember hearing Microsoft, throwing their hat in the ring. So I started a little earlier than that, and we were doing things called process automation before DevOps became a thing, and you're right on where one of the key initial aspects of DevOps is tearing the silo down between an operation department and a development department. And that is still a key aspect of DevOps, but it had grown since around the 2012 to probably 2014, 2015 timeframe, to include all software development tools and all tools that you would typically use in an operation environment. So your observability, logging, things like that, alerting, all those type of tools, to also include setting up the platform that you're deploying to, and then whole platform engineering came out of all
Yeah.
of that as well.
Yeah, because it evolved fairly quickly for me. In 2013, when I was 2012, 2013, when I was jumping into Team Foundation server, really it was more of like uniting the development aspect of it and the test case management, right? So you had some sort of a unit test, some sort of a automated test, some sort of just testing in general that would happen after your code deliveries, and that for us was a win, right? Just having the ability to do your testing immediately after your code was committed was a huge win. We weren't talking automated deployments yet. We weren't really talking anything with builds per se, although builds started creeping up as I went from 2013 to 2014, where having automated builds and just not doing your code on your machine.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the before all of that, right? The famous tagline of like "it works on my machine"
Yeah.
was very true, right?
You still hear that from time to time, or another one that I always cringe when I hear it is, the whatever tool server died. Oh, where was it? Oh, under my desk.
Yeah, I grew up with a lot of that in my career. But as I fast forward to 2015 into 2016, that was my first introduction into Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time where we were doing nightly builds. So a lot of developers were contributing code and they would do their integration build with Jenkins. And then eventually throughout the whole day, all of the commits from all the different engineers would compile a nightly build.
Yeah.
And it would run a series of tasks and automations and whatnot.
Come in the morning and everyone's blaming somebody for
right.
nightly build. Yes.
But that was a quick transition, right? That was a quick, like from 2013 to 2016, or just in that 2 to 3 year span, it evolved quickly, right? Because by the time I went into Jenkins, it felt way more mature. right? It wasn't just testing, but it was doing a lot of verification. Unit tests were starting to kind of roll out.
Mm.
Um, and then we would also, what was new to me at that point was the software package. The image we would actually put on the disk was generated through a weekly build that we would punch out at the end of the week.
Yeah.
So those were new endeavors for me, and that was fun because learning how to tag branches in your Git repository and align things with your CI/CD, and different libraries and different parts of the repos had different builds, and so that to me was just an overwhelming experience at the
Yeah,
beginning.
or orchestrating all of that and using Jenkins for the first time was always fun. Yeah, I started doing build automation. That's kind of where this all came from, with Perl scripts back in the the early '90s. And Perl scripts, there was actually a number of things that came out roughly the same time as Jenkins, and they can't remember all of them. I know one was BuildForge that I supported for quite a few years in the early days, I'm starting. Obviously, I've dated myself a number of times already, but um, and basically automating all the things, and you try to get it so you can go from complete from prior to code commit all the way to delivery to whatever you're delivering to. Another big change, which I think helped bring in DevOps, was the fact that most people are deploying to some sort of internet-facing system, which eventually became clouds.
Yeah, and
And
we haven't even gotten that far yet at
yeah,
this point.
because you mentioned disk, so you were delivering something to some media that was then installed somewhere else, and most likely had some sort of install wrapper built around it, whether
Correct.
it was a commercial one or a homegrown one. I think I've done more homegrown install scripts than I have commercial ones.
Yeah, the dot slash and then the file name
Yeah.
was a common thing that I just there's so, there's something to say about auto tab complete in Linux and Unix that just you get that gratification every time.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Um,
I always have to install that on my Windows machines too. But
Linux for the win. Yeah. So then, as I fast forwarded to end of 2016 into 2017, that then evolved into Jira as the project management tool,
Mhm,
with TeamCity being my CI/CD tool. But things got more interesting there because there we now had like Baracode, and
mhm,
for code analysis,
yeah,
we had static code analysis. So we had the Baracode for vulnerabilities and whatnot. But then we had a static code analysis. We had stuff for code smells, checking best practices and standardizations of like
sure.
your Java, C++,
Yeah.
trying
With
to
different
see.
linters. Yeah.
Yeah, so that started gradually again evolving more and more, where you weren't just building and checking to make sure that your code wasn't breaking that nightly build, but rather now you're checking against industry best practices, known
Corporate
vulnerabilities, yeah, quality standards, getting a score, right? It's getting some sort of a rating on did you mess things up or not, and also an introduction to the peer review process for me that started coming in 2016, 2017, where as part of the commit message, as part of your pull request, which
standards.
was now a new thing for me as well, that PR would then trigger a nightly that integration build, and it would trigger a peer review process that you then had to tag a couple of friends or leads to go look at your code.
Yeah, much better having that integrated into the whole system than
Yeah,
prior
and
to
this,
that. It was more of an honor system. Did you do a code review or a peer review? And depending on the group the development group that you're in, the honor system was either complete, well, we expect you to do this, hope you did it, to it was almost like a change control board type thing, which I'm sure you've had to sit through some of those type of organizations that have change control boards. Uh,
yeah.
and you basically have to have 2 or 3 of your peers bless your code before it can get committed. Um,
Yeah, and then my last hurrah into the DevOps world, and at the towards the tail end of 2017, early 2018, was taking VMware. At the time, had VMware Horizon and a couple of other like on-demand cloud creations, and so leveraging TeamCity so that when your build was complete, it would then basically, this is pre-Docker, right? But it
Mhm.
would basically create a pure environment and push your libraries, push your dependencies, push your code into this purebred templatized environment that can then run your code. And so that was like one of the last things that I ended up doing before I dedicated myself to just be a Jira administrator and project manager.
Yeah.